chlorine, which are not natural to our environment.
How the environment affects human health is really quite complex, and I think we have to be careful about oversimplifying it. Many of the things that we use we consider environmental poisons or toxins actually have helped human health. You know, the fact that we have less bacteria and bugs and germs around is a result of things like pesticides and other elements that have been used in our environment. On the other hand, there's no free lunch. And I think, again, we haven't always weighed the risks of these against the benefits. And people are starting to look at how the larger environment affects human health.
What we've done in the Western world is we've taken hand-me-downs that the military would like to water down and sell to the public. So you take the pesticides, herbicides, and defoliants, they water them down a little and they tell you it's good for your fields and the garden, or you have a nice-looking golf course. And what we're finding out is these things that were designed to kill are killing people.
Over 30 years ago, renowned biologist Rachel Carson first alerted us through her famous book, Silent Spring, to the danger with toxic chemicals. Carson recognized as well that modern chemistry created some powerful tools for society. Yet, because of her concern about pesticides, she was ridiculed by some of the chemical industry as an ignorant and hysterical woman who wanted to turn the earth over to insects. Why would a woman with no children be concerned about the future, they asked. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent trying to discredit her. Rachel Carson died of breast cancer in 1964.
First, I hope this committee will give serious consideration to a much neglected problem, that of the right of the citizen to be secure in his own home against the intrusion of poisons applied by other persons. I speak not as a lawyer, but as a biologist and as a human being. But I strongly feel that this is or should be one of the basic human rights.
I need to tell the truth. I can't lie anymore. I need to do what's right. I know that's what my life is for. I ain't anymore.
It's taken a very long time for Rachel Carson to come into her own, unfortunately. She was, you know, a pioneer woman, so right away she had a lot of things going against her, primarily because she was a woman. Secondly, she was up against big industry, which was booming, from pesticide sales and lawn chemicals and, you know, gardening, etc. And what went on in this country is really criminal with the industry, that they allowed all these chemicals to be used on this earth without having had proper testing of the longevity of this shelf life and the real effects. I mean, it was like, we have to kill this bug, but we have to kill everything in the pond too with it, and in the trees as well.
The pesticides that concern Carson are part of a large group of toxic chemicals called organochlorines. These synthetic chemicals are also found in plastics and cleaning agents. They're also used in fuels and pharmaceuticals. Many were designed to kill bugs. Organochlorine pesticides are very toxic and they're very persistent. And they're attracted to human and animal fat cells where they're stored undetected for years. A number of organochlorines, including DDT, were eventually banned in North America, but manufacturers continue to export them to many regions all over the world. There, they also threaten the health of farm workers, their children, and their communities. How can we keep our children and ourselves safe when there is a circle of poison? Banned and severely restricted pesticides return to North America as residues in food we all think are healthy. Because these pesticides also move long distances through the atmosphere, they contaminate air, water, and living creatures around the globe. If we're not yet convinced that these organochlorines harm humans, we certainly have proof of the dramatic damage they cause to wildlife. How much proof do we need?
There was a spill of a pesticide in a lake in Florida near Disney World, Lake Apopka, a very large freshwater lake. Within a few years, the majority of the alligators in that lake appeared to be female, and the males were in some pretty big trouble. There actually are reports documented in the scientific literature that the male alligators of Lake Apopka tend to have small penises, and that's a pretty serious problem if you're an alligator. And we know that if you expose an animal to DDT, you can alter its ability to get pregnant, to stay pregnant. You can alter the kind of sperm that it produces. You can even get a male rat to develop nipples, which is an extraordinary occurrence. So we know that there are some pesticides, some organochlorines, and some plastics that have the ability to alter the way that animals reproduce and alter the kinds of hormones that they produce.
Tampering with human reproduction by mimicking the body's own natural estrogen. In doing this, they're capable of triggering the growth of malignant cells, promoting breast cancer. What is estrogen? Women produce estrogen primarily for the sexual development essential to reproduction. Exposure to estrogen is increased for those women who start their menstrual cycles at a young age or who end them after age 50. For women who don't have children, and possibly for women whose diets are high in animal fat.
The more exposure to estrogen in a woman's lifetime, the greater her risk of developing breast cancer. We have used that information to develop a theory that environmental chemicals that stimulate the production of estrogen, development of the disease, we've called xenoestrogens. Xeno for the Greek word foreign estrogens. And in fact, we have identified through studies in cell cultures and studies in whole animals on pollutants that in fact increase the body's production of estrogen. Among the things that we've identified are certain organochlorine pesticides, some plastics, some fuels, perhaps some pharmaceuticals. All of these appear to increase the body's production of estrogen.
We used to think that only the body's own natural estrogen could turn in a lock indicated to you here. In fact, we now know it's more complicated. There appear to be good and bad xenoestrogens. The bad ones turn and lead to more cell growth and aberrant cell growth. And it's those aberrant cells, those deformed cells, that lead us to cancer.
I can't be quiet anymore about what I'm supposed to. I need to tell the truth and do what's right by you.
There have been a number of convincing studies on human beings linking the bad xenoestrogen of organochlorines to breast cancer.
Some studies have found that women with higher DDT in their blood have a higher risk of breast cancer. For example, Dr. Mary Wolfe of Mount Sinai Medical Center found exactly that. But another study by Dr. Nancy Krieger found that there was no relationship between DDT and breast cancer when she combined data looking at African American, Asian American, and white American women. But in fact, when you separated out the Asian Americans, you found that there was an increased risk with women with higher DDT levels who were black and white having a higher risk of breast cancer. Now, what does all this mean? In fact, there may be something protective in the Asian world that keeps Asian women from having as high a rate of breast cancer. They eat more soy products, and soy is a good xenoestrogen. So it's a very complex puzzle we're looking at. In fact, a new study has found that 15 years actually have lower DDT levels. Now, in that case, we have to ask, is it because having had cancer for 15 years, their fat levels of DDT have dropped? We don't know, but the issue is a very important one to resolve.
I'm very concerned that it may not be so much the stuff in the environment as all the medications we take. As women, we go on birth control pills, right after puberty, and at which time half the time you need fertility drugs, and then you go on postmenopausal hormones till you die. I mean, what is this saying about your body that you're drugging it the whole time? I think that it's not just the external environment, but it's all the stuff we're putting in, both in our diets and in all the extra drugs we take, that we need to look at very seriously.
Women will not simply be mainstreamed into the polluted stream. Women are changing the stream, making it clean and green and safe for all. Our struggle is about reversing the trends of social, economic, political, and ecological crisis because we are witnessing a global nervous breakdown. It's not that we won't go back, it's that we will go forward.
With breast cancer, what was really disturbing to me was to see how women were encouraged to disconnect themselves from what was happening, to smile, to put on makeup, to wear prosthesis, and to act as if nothing had really happened. And what became a part of my mission, I guess, was to encourage people to become connected to what was happening, even though it's really scary. And I saw it as a drama. You know, if from the time of diagnosis, women with breast cancer are protagonists